Okay, Alan rolling again, and different subject than what we've been talking about before. I want to talk to you today about baseball, and particularly about youth league baseball in the 1950s, 1960s. I grew up in Warrior, Alabama. My dad was a high school principal, and in fact, we moved to Jasper in 1956. I was 7 years of age at that time, and when I lived in Warrior, we just, for whatever reason, there was no neighborhood baseball, basketball, and football. And when I moved to Jasper, Alabama, and on Valley Road, I found out it was an entirely different world there. There was a lot of kids, and a lot of kids playing baseball, football, and basketball during those times. And as it happened to be, my best friend at that time was Danny Gambrell. And Danny Gambrell, which is currently a city councilman, in Jasper, Alabama. He'd been the principal of Walker High School. He was a football coach at several different schools. And during my growing up years, there was just no better athlete in Jasper, Alabama than Danny Gambrell. So he was my best friend. So consequently, I just had to get involved in sports. And baseball, and basketball, and football. I was a very, very small individual at that time. Still am to a degree. And so anyway, I got involved in those sports here. And I can remember at that time, I told my daddy, I said, we lived on Valley Road, and of course Memorial Park, was 2 miles away, and that meant that somebody had to carry me up to the park for practice and for the games. And I told my daddy, I wanted to be a part of the team, and he said, well, okay, that's fine. And I'm left-handed now. I'm left-handed, which means my glove goes on the right hand. I throw with my left hand. And so my dad went out and he got me a glove. Here, I'll show you what the glove looks like. Let's go back to my camera right here. And by the way, here's the title of this: 1950s, 1960s, Youth Baseball in Jasper, Alabama. And this was the glove that my dad got me. All right, and it's a little bit close to the camera here, so I'll back it up and let you take a look at this glove. And I cannot tell you that I was very proud of this glove. And notice that there's no webbing on the glove whatsoever. It's a glove that came from the 1940s, maybe even 1930s. I don't know. But anyway, that was the glove that my dad gave me. And so I took that glove, went up to the field, and joined this little league team. Actually, it was not little league. It was a minor league. And before I go any further with this, I want to go back to my camera, and I'll come back to myself in just a second here. And we had at that time several leagues. You had a minor league, which was age approximately 7 to 8. Then there was Pony League, and I didn't put Pony League down here because Pony League was phased out. But once you left the minor leagues, you went to the Little League, and Little League was ages approximately 9 to 12 years of age here. And some of the teams that we had at that time was Piggly Wiggly, Kiwanis, WWWB Disc Jockeys, CFC Lions, that happened to be another one. And like I said, then you would go into Pony League, but I never got Pony League because they changed it into Babe Ruth League. Babe Ruth League was ages 13 through 16. We had such teams as Marshall Durbin, Gardner Wholesale, probably others. I know there's some other teams. I just can't remember what leagues they were. We had Rotary, Deep South, Tigers, J&K Lumber Company. If I remember correctly, we had Mountain Eagle as a team. Likewise. So anyway, I want to go back to my story here about myself. So I carried that glove from the 1930s, 1950s at the ballpark, and all the members of my minor league baseball team laughed at me. And I was a little bitty boy at that time, about 7 to 8 years of age, and they laughed at me. And so I borrowed some guy's glove, one of the other players' gloves, and this glove was for a right-handed thrower, and it fit on my left hand, which made me have to throw with my right arm. And so I played that entire first season, holding a glove on my left hand and throwing with my right arm, and every day I would go up with that glove that my dad gave to me, and then I would hide it in the bushes so nobody would laugh at me. But I had to make my dad think that I was carrying that glove. And anyway, and so I played that whole season, throwing with my right arm. Actually got pretty good with it, as a matter of fact. And even today, I can throw fairly well, with my right arm. All right, so anyway, after that, the next year, I finally got the glove that I wanted, and this was the glove here. I'll go back to my camera here and let you see what it looks like. And actually, I think it'd probably be better if I show it to you like this. and this was the glove that I got then. All right, and it fit on my left hand, and I was very, very proud of this glove. And subsequently, I bought another glove myself. This was a first baseman's mitt, and I wore this glove for a number of years. Still have these two gloves today. Ted Kluzinski's. That's what the model was here. Very, very proud of that. Alrighty, so anyway, so that was the beginnings of this. And I can remember in my first year, I didn't see very well. At that time, I didn't know that. And my first year of minor league, I struck out every time that I batted, I guess that was some kind of record, but I'm not very proud of that. And then shortly after that, I got glasses, and I finally could see the baseball. And when I got glasses, things began to change a little bit, and I could hit the ball much better. And so, anyway, it was kind of a fun period of time. I want to show you some photographs here. I'm going to go documents camera, and I took this photograph of Memorial Park Field just the other day, and I was completely amazed when I went up there the other day. There were 4 fields. They're all very, very nice fields. And if you go across Memorial Park, you have a couple of T-ball fields. And we had nothing like that in the 1950s. And in fact, we had one baseball field, and this baseball field was for the minor league, little league, the pony league, later Babe Ruth league. And they would take the fences between the games, and the fences would be like if it was a little league game, the fences were moved in, and then for the pony league games, then we would move the fences out, and everybody go out there and move the fences 20, 30 feet further out, And that was just a ritual that took place before every game. But that's what the field looked like here, roughly. But like I said, we only had one field then. Here's another photograph of the current park here. And it was always kind of crazy because in the distance over here was where the Memorial Park swimming pool was. And at that time, we had a swim team and we had baseball teams, but you could only do one or the other because they overlapped. Baseball games and swim meets were at the same time. And I would always look over there and listen to the crowd, cheering along the swimmers at a swim meet. And I thought, boy, I'd like to be over there. But I'm sure that the swimmers over there listening to the crowds over at the baseball games were thinking the same thing. Boy, I sure wish I was over there. But anyway, that was kind of a memory of those times. So I want to go back to our field right here. And I want to tell you a story here. And this story crossed my mind this morning as I was getting ready for the presentation. We live in an entirely different age today in 2025 than we did in the latter parts of the 1950s and the early parts of the 1960s. We had it safer back then. There was no question about it. We didn't lock our houses. We didn't lock our car doors. Kids roamed about and nobody worried about them. And, if my brother and I wanted to go downtown Jasper or go up to the handy dandy, we just did it. We told my mother we're going to be gone for a little bit, and we'd go and we'd come back. Nobody worried about us, And we'd be gone all day. My mother would ring the bell. We'd come home for lunch, and we'd go out to play. We'd be gone the rest of the day. My mother would ring the bell. We'd come back for dinner, and we called it supper back then. And that was it. I would spend the night with my grandmother, which is in Norwood, Birmingham. And she never locked the doors the entire time. But today, it's an entirely different world. So why did I tell you about that? What my parents would tell us to do, they would just tell us, my mother would just say, boys, going up to the baseball field, spend a day up at the baseball field, take a sandwich if you want. And we would go up to the baseball field 2 miles away, and honest to goodness, we would stay there the entire day. And then the baseball games would take place at night, and we'd play our game, and my parents would come up and watch the game most of the time and then carry us home. But I remember at that time, and we had no idea about child predators, child molesters. And I can remember at that time, there was this, I'm not going to identify who this individual was. He lived on 3rd Avenue, but he was older than the rest of us guys. We were awfully young. We were, 7, 8, 9 years of age. I was completely ignorant. I just did not know anything, about the hazards in life. And this older guy would go up there and he would try to prey upon these young guys. And he would stay up there and he would try to lure us to come up into the bleachers and sit with him. And I can remember he got me into the bleachers once. He never touched me, but he got me into the bleachers and he pulled out a deck of cards that had some, you can use your own imagination, some very provocative scenes on it. And he would show this to me or to some of the other guys I mean, and we were so young, we didn't even understand what was going on. And I later learned, in life, that he was a child predator, and he subsequently was arrested on several occasions. Opened up a porn shop over in Birmingham, and the only reason I know that is because he was arrested with that. But anyway, and that was one of the things I remember negatively about this baseball experience. But let's go back to things a little bit more fun with this. And we would always start every baseball game, and I'm talking about from Little League to minor league to Little League to Pony League to Babe Ruth League. It would always start in the same fashion. And please don't misunderstand me. I am not being negative with this. But every game would start the same way. They would do the national anthem, and then we had an individual in Jasper whose name was Ford O'Rear. And Ford has Down syndrome. And he was considerably older than us. He looked like an old man to me, when I was 8 years old, but I guess he was probably about 20 or 25. And every game would always start the same. After the national anthem, Ford O'Rear would pick up the baseball bat, and he would always be the first hitter. And the pitcher would lob him a ball underhanded, and it may take 5 swings before he would finally tip the ball, and it would roll a few feet out into the field, and Ford would take off. He would dash off to first base, and then it was all a game, all a ritual. And a catcher would pick up the ball and throw it over the first baseman's head, and then Ford would round first base and head to second base, and then the first baseman would throw the ball over the second baseman's head, and Ford would round second base, dash off to third base. The same thing would take place, and Ford would round third base as the ball passed over the third baseman's head, and then Ford would just sail into home plate and always do a slide into home plate. And everybody would cheer and clap, and then Ford would choose the dugout of the team that he wanted to sit with, and he would sit with that team throughout the next game. And I'm not kidding you now, that's the way it was done throughout all of my youth league. And every time, every day, every game, it was Ford out there. And Ford was a gentle person. And I remember Coach D. Joe Gambrell would let him sit on the bench, with the Walker Vikings during football games. And he was just kind of, a town, for lack of a better word, town mascot. And I saw that about 10 years ago that Ford had died, and I clipped the obituary from the newspaper, and I was going to bring it out and show you listeners, show you viewers that obituary. And by golly, I can't find it. I know it's around here. It's not something I would throw away. So anyway, let's go back to some of the exciting action of the Youth League during that time. I want to share with you an article, and I found this clipping. It came out of the Daily Mountain Eagle. And I found this clipping not too long ago. I'm guessing it was probably about 1960 when this article came out. And the reason I date that, when I look on the back of the article, it has an article here that talks about Fidel Castro coming to power here. Another article down here about street fighting in Rome, Italy. But if you look at this old article here, and it's a game against Quantus and WWWB disc jockeys, and of course I played for the WWWB disc jockeys at that time, and you can see a scene from this. This was Sammy Johnson right here. The throw from third base came from Al Blanton right there, and it tells you down below here that Piggly Wiggly captures first in the Little League, and somewhere down here someplace my name is mentioned in there is getting a hit, which was probably kind of unusual. All right. And even down below, and I like this also, this is Birmingham Barons knocks off the Atlanta Crackers. And that's what the Atlanta Braves were formerly known as, Atlanta Crackers. I think they were a 2A baseball team at that time. Anyway, I can remember going over to Rickwood Field and watching Birmingham play the Crackers. I ran across some of these photographs, and this photograph is from 1959. It's probably from 1960 is what I'm guessing anyway. And this was my baseball team. This was WWWB disc jockeys. Here is our Coach Bill Grant here. He was a World War II Navy pilot, Coach Bill Grant. Here was Milford Cook. He was my coach. They both coached us. Looking across here, members of the team. That's Danny Gambrell. I think this boy's name was Johnny Bradford. I believe it was. Here is Sammy Johnson, and this is John Cook. I think that is either Kenneth Lakey or Larry Lakey. And this nice looking fellow right here, Lawson Murphy. And if we go down to here, this is Al Blanton. And some of you may know Al Blanton, writes 78 Magazine, I believe it is anyway. And that's his dad. He was one of my childhood friends. A.J. McDaniel. I believe this is Harold Peters. I'm not sure who these two boys are. Here's Ronnie Johnston right here. This little nerdy guy here with the glasses on. That's finally get the glasses. Only guy on the team with glasses is myself. That glove I showed you a little bit ago, that first glove that was for a left-handed player. You can see it right there. This is James Kilgore. This is Alec Grant and Jasper. But anyway, that photograph was from 1960, 1961. WWWB disc jockeys. All right, now, here's Babe Ruth League photograph. It came from 1964, I believe it was anyway. And I'm not on this team. In fact, I'm not even sure what team this is. This is Gardner Wholesale. I did not play on that team. Here's Frank Barnes. He was the coach. Dennis Cook, I believe was his name. Larry Akins here. Here's Danny Gambrell, a fine athlete, great pitcher, good hitter. Here is Alan Trotter, Joe Fowler, James Kilgore here. Let's go down here. I'm not sure who this is. This is Ronnie Barton. Here's my brother Ryan Rowland. And can't remember his name. Here it's on the tip of my tongue. Can't remember his name. All right. Here's another photograph from 1964. I played for Marshall Durbin then. This is Marshall Durbin team. And I was probably 14, 15 years of age. And here's Jimmy Lee Alexander, the coach here. Over on this side, Blackie Lawler. And let's see who we have here. Rudy Jones. And I'm not sure who that is. And I think that's Larry Akins. Penn Woods here. Vietnam veteran, passed away. Tommy Roberts here. Can't see this well enough. And if we go down here, this guy no longer wearing the glasses. You know, I mean, at the earliest age possible, age 14, talked my mother and daddy into getting me contact lenses, get rid of those nerd glasses. And so that's me right there, left-handed glove. Here's Carl Key, Jeff Bennett, Larry Smith, Mike Cunningham. We called him Slick when we were in high school, and I do not know who this young fellow is. Anyway, so I hope that presentation was okay. Just a little reflection into my past here, my baseball years. I always liked baseball, and I always had aspirations to be in the major leagues, and of course that was not one of those things that was about to happen here. When I went on into high school, I found out that I had a fascination for track and field and cross country, and of course that took the place of baseball for me. Still like it today. I like to watch it very, very much. Anyway, thank you very much for your